myself first. Hello, sorry everyone. All right, good morning, and thank you for having me. It's really interesting hearing you all share very quickly about yourself, because there's quite a few marketers, branding people who do a lot of business selling. So there'd probably be some really great ideas from the group yourselves on how you're using LinkedIn currently, how you're selling yourself. So I'd really love to hear that as I share, how my methods provide a point of difference to things that you've learned or methods that you apply. So I'm just going to give you, as James said, a really quick flyover of how I work with clients to win premium B2B clients, mainly using LinkedIn, but also email outreach, cold email outreach. Just really quick case studies. I worked with Jeremy. He was working with corporates around golf days, so particularly their kind of client engagement days and events, as well as charity days. He was using LinkedIn, but a little bit ad hoc, and we worked together and he started to book 5 to 10 calls a week. A day rate for him is like a $2,000 event. So he was able to fill up his pipeline with conversations pretty quickly. But he actually started with a very developed LinkedIn network. So he really just had to plumb the network that he'd already developed, which was a great starting point. Uchi, he worked in the financial services in banking. He burned out himself and then wrote a book about his experience with resilience and leadership. Working together, he was able to book a training for about 200 bankers worth $200,000. So I'd say that's uncommon for training, but it shows the kind of potential for leadership and training kind of contracts, I guess, in certain sectors. And I think the strength for him is that he was working within a sector that he knew quite well, and he had current connections, as well as being able to then use that to leverage his cold outreach and network with others. Crystal, she's a startup coach. She was teaching women about finances and financial kind of acumen, I guess. She didn't really think that corporate was her target market, but we worked together on a LinkedIn strategy, and she was very quickly able to kind of 5x her call ratio. Her coaching is about $1,000, so she was able to kind of very quickly fill up her pipeline to a healthy state. And myself, as James said, I use the methods that I help other people implement. I started my consulting about a year ago. I went from 0 to about 40 calls a month. About 40 calls a month. And I was able to land my first high ticket client almost immediately. So I guess as a precursor to everything I share, I would kind of say that the rules of LinkedIn, if you're using LinkedIn a lot or a little, you may or may not be familiar with this. It's quite a different platform to other social platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, depending which platforms you're using. People want to be professional on LinkedIn and they don't spend a lot of time there. So just be very clear and concise. I don't know how many people are creating like a content strategy on LinkedIn and waiting for inbound leads. I know that, is it Darren? You do inbound marketing. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of inbound content creation on LinkedIn. Yep. I think the most efficient way of using LinkedIn is to build a network of your ideal client and be able to connect with them directly, whether that's through emails or messaging in a non-spammy and a non-salesy way. So it's really virtual networking, being able to find your ideal client and then talk to them quite specifically. The method I espouse is leading with value. So you're not leading with a pitch, you're not leading with a sell, you're leading with a form of value that's relevant to the type of person that you're connecting with, and just opening the door for a conversation, which of course can then become a sales conversation, but that would happen off LinkedIn. Okay, so in my program, I do a 3-month program. I take people through 3 stages. Everything from just optimizing and targeting and making sure everything's kind of in place, to then running outbound campaigns, and then automating and making sure that you're tracking and measuring things quite well. So for the sake of, because we've only got 20 minutes or something, we're just going to focus on the first step, which is really targeting and making sure your message is on point and your LinkedIn profile is optimized. So when we think about targeting our demographic, because there's quite a lot of business strategists and marketers in the group, obviously this is you do this all the time. So really deeply understanding your target market, really knowing who they are, the demographic and psychographics, and then turning that into your messaging, speaking in terms of the results and benefits, and really just leading with value, talking about the value that you create, and even listening to you, Annalise, pitch and present. Like I could hear a few times where I would kind of tweak and massage some of the things that you were saying, just really on just fronting the value of what you speak, and reducing some of the methods with which you kind of bring that value. Obviously, then making sure your LinkedIn profile is really maximized, because people will look at you and within a few seconds, a few minutes, they'll sum you up. So presenting yourself in the best possible light on LinkedIn, and also really crafting that piece of value that you offer upfront. Okay, so that's what we'll try and cover in the next few minutes. All right, starting with your ideal client. I know I'm preaching to the converted here with a bunch of people who've probably worked quite hard on really understanding the demographics, but LinkedIn really is a giant database. So once you know very specifically who you're reaching, you can search for them using Sales Navigator, everything from their seniority, the industry, where they are in the world, the company size, whether the company is growing or shrinking, whether departments are growing or shrinking, whether they've won funding, whether they're featured in the news. There's all kinds of data that you can find on LinkedIn. Obviously a whole range of keywords and their relationship to you. So whether you've already connected with them and they're in your pool of connections, or you have a common connection, or that you have no common connection, but they exist out there in the universe. Then once you can identify that, obviously now you have this database and you can find them. But the next step is really understanding their buttons and their push points. So what is the challenge and the frustration at the moment? What are their goals and dreams, and what's the specific result that you can create for them? So going back to your presentation, Annalise, it was really clear, you work within the STEM industry, you're working with middle to senior executives within a certain size of company, you're happy with a mid-size, you're really targeting the large size, things like that. And you also identified the financial benefit of investing in culture and leadership. And I think that that's something that you could really kind of move forward. If your challenge is getting them to actually prioritize this, how do we move them from like thinking of change or thinking of investing in leadership? We'll find the levers that they do care about. And it's pretty much always financial. And if you can show that they're bleeding money or from their culture, or they're bleeding money from their attrition, people leaving their company, or they're bleeding money from low productivity, then an investment of time in you will actually correct that. And that's a motivation that they're willing to address. So really being able to hone in on the pain that they're experiencing and the specific results that you can get. So then yeah, you're welcome. Hopefully we could rest on that a little bit, because I've probably got a few more ideas for you. But so when it comes down to your offer message, there's a great formula to come up with, like, I help a niche to achieve a result through a method or without some kind of old strategy. So for you, Annalise, something that you could come up with, and not to script your message for you, but you could say, I help executives in the tech industry to achieve amazing culture and productivity of their team through my leadership coaching. But then to get even more granular with that, to take it from a strong message to a power promise of, like, I help teams and leaders in the tech industry to double their output, or to add an hour a day of productivity through their performance and culture. And if you're able to get that granular with the result that you create for them, you know, an hour a day of productivity is 5 hours a week, which is 5 times 50 hours a year, which suddenly becomes a bottom line, you know, that becomes a cost item to the company that they can measure, right? So that suddenly becomes thousands of dollars, tens of $1,000s of value per person that is actually transformed through that process. And then your coaching becomes quite cheap in comparison. So if one person suddenly improves by $25,000 a year because they're somehow more productive through your coaching and leadership, then paying you a few £1,000s to help them get there is just, it's seen within context, and therefore it's just like, okay, let's talk to this lady. We think she can really help us. So I would say really dig down on the challenges they're facing, and in as granular detail how they're losing or how they're missing out on an opportunity. And that's obviously relevant for everybody here. So I can see things around hiring, branding, you know, software development, you know, exit planning. All of these will have bottom line impacts for a company. How can you articulate what you do and you move people in really, really tangible terms? Then obviously you want to optimize your LinkedIn profile. What I might do actually really quickly is jump over to LinkedIn. I wonder who I could pick on. James, should I pick on you, James? We know each other, so you're not going to get offended if I give you feedback. Sorry, it's a bit slow. Okay. Here we go. So Dr. James Robertson. All right, so things I would say is make sure you're making use of your banner image. If you don't have a banner image, that's really great. It's like real estate, you know, you just, it's there. When people land on your profile, make sure that they know very quickly, you know, what you do. Okay, so James, you're a strategist, business strategist. That's great, nice clear headshot. I would actually change this statement, James, to your impact statement. I help this type of business to double or triple their revenue through strategy. You know, how are you moving them to where they want to go in one sentence, because that really grabs people's attention. And then as you go down, you've got some featured articles. This is great. You've got a massive network, which is fantastic. So 29 connections, that's brilliant. And then in your about section, I think this is underutilized. People often give their bio. So I've got these awards, you know, this is my background. I come from this industry and my story. I would make this about your client. So I help this type of client achieve this result. Who do I help? I help this industry or this size of company. I help them through these 3 steps. We get these type of results, and here's some testimonials of results of companies. I help this company double. I help this company triple. I help this company find this amount of money. And then make sure there's a clear call to action. So you've got that here, you know, how people can get in touch with you, which is great. So then you've got your primary role here. Again, this is a little bit about you. So you've got a PhD in engineering, which is wonderful and estimable, but beyond that, what do you create? Like, what results do you create for a business, and why would people, it's really about them rather than about you, and those other things can be kind of moved to the side. I think probably because LinkedIn has an origin of being almost like your online CV and the place where you get a job or look for jobs. We list ourselves as though people are evaluating us as a person. But if you flip it and think of it as it's a networking platform, profile everything about what you do for other people and the results you create. And it's really, it doesn't matter if you've been to Harvard and have, you know, Nobel Peace Prize. Do you create business value for other people? You know, there's a lot of very clever people that are sitting around reading books. You know what I mean? Like, it matters about what you do and the kind of the impact that you create. And then I'd say you've got good skills and endorsements and great recommendations. So some people really don't have a lot of recommendations here. So make sure you can just ask someone for a recommendation. So do that and fill up your page. And it just means, in a way, I tell consultants, you almost don't need a website if you're using LinkedIn a lot and you're networking a lot on LinkedIn, because people can see pretty much everything here. Under your work here, you could have testimonials, you can link articles about what you do, how you work, link a video of your method and the results that you create. And it means that people don't need to leave LinkedIn to find out everything about you. A website is wonderful, and by all means invest in a website. What I'm saying is your LinkedIn page can act as a website for you and kind of sell your services. All right, so we've gone through banner, image, headline, your about section. Make sure it's very much about them, your featured post experience and skills and recommendations. All right, so we'll keep going. And then the last step is about optimizing your offer of value. So this is what I recommend on using LinkedIn. So you've found someone you want, say they're an executive in the STEM industry in a great company, you'd love to do kind of executive coaching with them. When you connect with that person, what can you offer them that's not your sales pitch? Is there something that you have? It could be an ebook, and Uchi wrote an ebook about how he increased productivity and resilience. He was able to offer that around, and that landed him a $200,000 contract, because it's something that they can absorb. It's something that they can understand your thought leadership and then come back to you about. So I offer people a free session, a free call. And in that we audit and diagnose what they're doing, and I give them advice. And in that, we can break the ice and they can understand a little bit about what they're doing, the potential of what they could do, and a little bit about me. And we can leave it at that. There's no obligation to sign up. But then there's also the potential for them to go, well, I really need help. Tell me more about what you do. And then we have a second call and we can talk about how I could help them. So a free call is something you can offer, a free audit. So if you're in the branding space, you could just offer to audit their website or audit their marketing collateral, give them a bit of tips and feedback, show them that they're bleeding money, they're leaving money on the table. And it doesn't take a lot of your time, but it's heaps of value to them. I'd say with you, Annalise, if you've got some great tool or even just a little piece of training that you can offer them that shows how they can move from here to here with their culture. And if you're really specific about the STEM industry, what are the challenges of the STEM culture? So it's probably a lot of very clever left brain people who are very good at maths and science who are struggling with some of their people skills. And that, right, yeah, and that creates a culture, and it creates leadership problems, and it creates productivity problems. Yeah. So you understand that, you know how to get them to think more with their right brain, more with their people skills, hone that empathy and human understanding, and create a brilliant culture. Show how you do that. Can you do that in a 10 or 15-minute video or in an ebook? Then you can offer that to them. And that's just that's with a cold conversation, it's something that you can give of value. If they come back to you and go, that was so interesting, then suggest a call and a conversation and a coffee chat or a strategy session or something to figure out how they could improve it. Another thing you could do is even a taster session. So go in and do a lunchtime taster session where you deliver a little bit of your coaching, and it's enough for people to get a sense of the results that you create and get a sense of you. And then obviously to find out more, they have to, sign up to what you have to offer. Thanks. So yeah, really think about that piece of value that you can offer up front. And again, this is Uchi. He just wrote an ebook. He published it himself. I think he made it in Canva or just in a PDF. It really wasn't very, he didn't have to go to a publisher to get this published. And yeah, he was able to land quite a few workshops, and I think he's got a few others in the pipeline. Okay, so how are we tracking for time? Excuse me. Have we run out of time?
You've got about another 2 minutes, Jennifer.
2 minutes. All right. So we don't have a lot of time to look into some of these practicalities of LinkedIn, but you can obviously, with a free version of LinkedIn, you can look for groups, events, and posts. So looking groups, LinkedIn groups aren't wonderful, but at least you can find people around topics. So you could find people around the topic of golfing, for example. Who knew that there were golfing groups? But Jeremy found golfing groups, which is amazing to find executives who really care about golfing. Around events, so if you target people around e-commerce or the real estate events. People are always attending events on LinkedIn, and then that's a way of finding your ideal client because they're actively involved in events. And you can actually search for posts, people who are posting on certain topics, and then go through the people who've liked and commented on those posts and find people that are following that post and are interested. And then, of course, Sales Navigator itself, you can just search by all those demographics and profiles and just start adding people. And once you're connected, reach out with your offer of value. I've got a video, I've got something for you. Would this interest you? It's not pitchy, it's not spammy, but it's just seeing if they're the kind of person who would engage with you and then open up the conversation. So yeah, I really recommend LinkedIn Sales Navigator if you haven't got it. It costs about £800. So it's a bit of an investment, but it's well worth it. You get really superior search filters. You get a bunch of emails. Sorry, I believe it's more than 100. I think it's about 400. Sorry. So which means you don't have to connect with people to message them. So you can just do your cold outreach a bit more like email outreach. Then you can also search about companies, you can search about teams, you can get email addresses and all kinds of data. And again, things about like funding events. If you're going for startups that have got A and B and C seed round funding, and your tech innovation you can help them, or you can help them grow, or certain age of companies help them exit. So that all of that data is really readily available. And where are we? So maybe let's go for questions now, but just in case we do get chopped off with time, here's a little bit about me. I'd love to offer you a free 30-minute strategy session if you're interested. Just either reach out in the chat, reach out via email, connect with me on LinkedIn. We can just sit and have a strategy session on you and how you're using LinkedIn and ideas that you could use to kind of leverage that better. So yeah, maybe let's just go away for conversation and questions.
Right. Well, folks, open to the floor.
Do I call on people? Should I?
I think you call on people.
Okay. I saw your hand, Aki, first.
Okay. So my question is, I often have second and third connections engaging with my posts.
Yeah.
And often these people, after seeing my posts and different things, like you said, you create a network on LinkedIn, they buy my services eventually or book a consultation. So what is the right approach to connect with these people? I mean, obviously I can click on connect, go to their profile, but what should be the message?
So that's brilliant because they've already engaged with you. So it's less of a cold outreach. Like if I were you, I would just go through anyone who engages with my stuff, immediately add them and just say with your connection message, hi, name, Susan, Bob, whatever. I notice you liked my post or you commented on my post. I'd love to connect with you here and just have you part of my network, because you are only limited to a few hundred characters. So that's probably about all you can write, but it shows they've connected with you. Now you're connecting back. And once they've accepted, find out more about them. What are they doing with their branding or their photography? Could you offer a free audit or something like that? Just have a chat.
Okay. Yeah, I've tried that. Some of them do reply, and it's a positive chat. Some of them don't respond, which is fine.
That's right.
Kind of people, yeah,
that's right. Some people really guard their network. They only add people that they've like literally met and really like. Other people are fine to add people. I'd say probably about a 30% connection rate is fairly normal. So
cool.
Can be higher when you're very specific. Sorry, I didn't see who else had a hand. Oh, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks, Jennifer. So I was interested in the power promise.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just not sure how to sell this pen as a power promise. If I thought long enough and hard enough, I might come up with something suitable. But I can't really say your sales will go up by 20%, but I can say I'll guarantee that you'll be proud of the things that you give away representing your company.
Got it.
But I'm not sure beyond that, really.
So, I mean, this is the classic Jordan Belfort kind of kind of scenarios and it's sell this pen thing.
Yeah.
And I assume for you, is that a merchandising thing? So it's a branding for your company if you create pens that are branded? Is that?
Yeah, or a polo shirt or a umbrella or a bottle or a bag, etc.
Yeah. So I don't know, case studies that you have of companies that brand objects, it's really about client, kind of eyeballs on your brand, right? So it's about that kind of profile raising and kind of customer engagement. So whether you can say, I help companies kind of 10x the kind of brand engagement through product placement or through branded products. Are you able to measure from some of the case studies that you've had around people that implement this? Maybe it's an event merchandise, or maybe it's just kind of company branding, where they take their customers to, and for example, people walk into an office and they're like surrounded by their own brand or something. Does that make sense? It's like it's customer
I'm not
loyalty
sure how,
and things. Sorry if my internet's a bit troublesome. So
yeah, I'm not sure how measurable it will be like that. I suppose there'll be generic stuff on the internet that promotional merchandise helps you improve your blah, 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 but I wouldn't sort of trust that to give out as, but I don't know.
Yeah. I would do some research, because I'm sure marketing kind of think tanks have done some research into that and have some good metrics, because it's obviously a method that people employ because it gets results, right? It's not just gimmicky. They do it because something shifts in people's mind and kind of customer attention and customer engagement. It's not, 2 minutes, it's hard to kind of say, but I mean, people invest in billboards and all kinds of things because it shifts people's attention and it imprints in people's minds. The more you see a brand, the more you think about the brand. Kind of pull out some numbers of that and then tell your clients, like, this is why it's worth investing in mugs and pens and t-shirts and things, because it actually shifts people. Yeah.
Could you put your contact details in the chat, or again, because I missed your...
Yeah, let me put my...
Thank you for that.
No worries. I'm sorry. I saw Annalisa, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jennifer. Right, okay, so automation worries me. It really does, because I see it failing so much. For example, somebody got in touch with me earlier this week and sounded as though totally plausible, like, oh wow, kind of like, I saw your post and can you give me more information about your leadership and coaching, please? Well, I actually went back to her, not with any information, but I just kind of messaged her back, hey, thanks for connecting with me. How's your week going? And bang, straight in with an automated response. It was, oh, are you looking to use speaking to, grow your audience? No answer to how is your week going, obviously automated. And it just, it's just kind of like, you feel sucker punched, even though, because you didn't answer, because, it sounds like a plausible inquiry. And even though I didn't respond to that, I went, with a conversational question. You still kind of think, oh wow, you just wanted to sell to me, really, didn't you? And the second one was when this chap, who also does kind of like lead generation stuff, different platforms and things, he got in touch and he said, oh hey, what big, started this conversation, and what big thing are you working on right now? And I proceeded to tell him how much he's devising a program for 20-somethings, graduates and 20-somethings, a leadership development program to actually grow leaders for the next generation, future generations, because I really do feel that leaders are failing our young people tremendously. And to cut a long story short, I finished up actually, probably like too much information, but finished up attaching, because I'm so passionate about this, an article that actually said that 7% of young people under the age of 17 in the UK have tried to commit suicide, or certainly have tried to self-harm. It was like a shocking statistic. And all I got back from that was one sentence saying, oh, that sounds really interesting. So what campaign are you running right now? And I'm like thinking, wow, if that's a genuine reply, that is so glib, it is shocking. And if that's automation, I don't want to be going down that route, because honestly, I don't want to be that kind of person, right? That somebody who tries to say something meaningful to me and my automation has just kicked in. So it really does worry me. I see the time-saving aspect of it, but it just removes the humanity out of the engagement for me. So I just wondered what your opinion and view of that was.
Definitely. So I always warn people, like, do not go to automation prematurely. Like, really figure out your conversation with your ideal client first. It's interesting that you replied and then an automation message came back, because usually when you reply, any automation immediately stops. And then that gives the person the chance to come in and kind of just actually talk to you normally. So yeah, number one, you don't have to automate. It's not required, it's just an option. Number two, it's only there ready when you want to scale. And if you don't need to scale, and if you want to just go one-to-one and quite slowly, then, you know, quality over quantity is better, definitely. Like when I say automation, it's really about, so email. So if you want to send hundreds of emails a day, you're not going to manually send hundreds of emails a day. It's a lot better to just to automate and send hundreds of emails. And then when replies come, handle them individually. And then also the other thing you can do with automation is you can send a LinkedIn connection and an email, and then once they connect, and a message. You know, you can automate like cadences that are email and LinkedIn, so that can help. But yeah, of course, the pitfalls are to try and go quantity over quality, to not be responsive to the actual conversation that people are having with you. Like really, it should be as soon as someone replies, automation should just go out the window and it becomes a personalized conversation. It's really automation to initiate and see who bites. So connect with 100 people and say, oh, you're a leader. I've got an ebook or free training about this potential challenge you have. Are you interested? Maybe 100 people will ignore it and 5 people will reply. Now 5 conversations you have personally. Do you know what I mean? But that initial thing is just sending a message out into the universe and waiting for people to reply. Does that answer your question a bit?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
Folks, we're about out of time. Jennifer, thank you very much. That's been extremely useful.
Great.
I see your email addresses in the chat if any of the team want to follow up with you.
Yes.
And thank you so much for making the time to come and share with us.
Yeah, lovely to meet you all.
Any last remarks from your side?
No, it's been a privilege. Also, obviously a lot of you guys are specialists in this, and I wish we had more time. I'd like to kind of pick your brains a bit on different strategies, but maybe in a future, maybe if we have a chat or in another kind of meeting, it'd be nice.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Right.
See you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.